Top 5 Most Recent American Medical Serial Killers. Number 5. Felicia Miyamir, 1 victim. Felicia Miyamir is a nurse who's accused of the murders of elderly women in Dallas, Texas and its surrounding suburbs. It is suspected that he had been active since 2016 when he was caught trespassing on Edgemere retirement community. Miyamir is accused of using his healthcare experience to pose as a medical professional to gain access to the properties of at least 22 elderly women before smothering them with a pillow. Billy would then proceed to steal valuables including cash and jewelry from the elderly women, especially going for residents of upscale assisted living facilities, among them the Tradition Prestonwood. So far, Miyamir has been convicted of the murder of Luthi Harris and has been sentenced to life in prison. Dallas County District Attorney did not seek a death sentence for Miyamir. However, Miyamir could still face execution on pending capital murder charges in Collin County. As of July 2022, Miyamir has been indicted for 22 murders and is also facing 6 civil suits, accusing him of similar charges. Number 4. Kristen Gilbert, 4 victims. Kristen Heather Gilbert is a former nurse who was convicted of 4 murders and 2 attempted murders at the Veterans Affairs Clinic in Northampton, Massachusetts. She induced cardiac arrest in patients by injecting their intravenous bags with massive doses of adrenaline. She would then respond to the coded emergency, often resuscitating the patient herself. In other instances, she would request that another nurse checks on the patient first before she would swoop in to save the day. Gilbert was on duty for about half of the 350 deaths that occurred at the hospital between 1989 and 1996. Kristen was nicknamed the Angel of Death, and she was first reported when other nurses noticed an increase in cardiac arrest deaths and a decrease in the supply of epinephrine at the hospital. An investigation ensued. The results of the investigation led to Kristen, who was convicted for the murders of her 4 victims and is now serving 4 consecutive life terms. Number 3. Kimberly Signs, 5 victims. Kimberly Signs, also known as Kimberly Clockfowler, is a former licensed practical nurse who was convicted of killing 5 patients at a Texas dialysis center by injecting bleach into their dialysis lines. In 2008, the clinic she was working at had an unusual spike in patients falling seriously ill during their treatment. Paramedics were called a record 30 times to the clinic in April 2008 alone. The owners of the facility sent one of their clinical coordinators to find out what was wrong after 2 patients had died of cardiac arrest in quick succession. 2 patients subsequently testified that they saw Signs draw bleach solution into 2 syringes, then inject the substance into other patients' dialysis lines. This led to Signs being confronted, under which circumstances she claimed she was cleaning an unused dialysis machine and used a syringe to get a precise measurement, a method that was contrary to company policy. Police were called in and the clinic was shut down for 2 weeks after several syringes used by Signs tested positive for bleach. On March 31, 2012, an Angelina County jury convicted Signs of murdering 5 patients and injuring 5 others. Signs was sentenced to 5 concurrent terms of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Number 2. Retta Phyllis Mays, 7 victims. Retta Phyllis Mays was born in 1975 in Reynoldsville in West Virginia. She was a United States Army veteran, but at the time of the murders, she worked as a nursing assistant at the Louis A. Johnson Veterans Medical Center in Clarksburg, West Virginia. In 2017, Mays was assigned to work overnight shifts and simultaneously, elderly patients began suffering mysterious acute drops in blood sugar levels and dying. Because of this, the hospital began an internal investigation of 11 deaths. The investigation was turned over to the FBI and Mays was fired from the hospital, whilst the 2-year-long investigation took place. It was discovered that Mays enjoyed researching female serial killers and watching Netflix series such as Nurses Will Kill. Ultimately, investigators found that during her time at the medical center, Mays would inject elderly patients with insulin so as to cause acute drops in their blood sugar levels and their eventual deaths. She did this in order to end their suffering and enable them to pass away gently. And she also noted that because of her tumultuous personal life, these murders gave her a sense of control. Even though there were up to 20 suspicious deaths in the time Mays was working, she was only charged with 7 second-degree murders and 1 count of intent to commit murder due to insufficient evidence for the other deaths. On 11 May 2021, Mays received 7 consecutive life sentences plus 20 years. She was also ordered to pay the victims' families $172,624.96. Her known victims, all veterans, were 84-year-old Archie Edgell, 82-year-old Robert Edge, 89-year-old Robert Colzo, 81-year-old George Shaw Sr., 96-year-old William Halloway, 82-year-old Felix McDermott, 88-year-old Raymond Golden, and 92-year-old Russell R. Posey. Number 1. Elizabeth Wetlaffer, 8 victims. Wetlaffer is a former registered nurse who confessed to murdering 8 senior citizens and attempting to murder 6 others in southwestern Ontario between 2007 and 2016. Wetlaffer injected all her victims with insulin, and her first fatality was on August 11, 2007, when she murdered James Silcox, an 84-year-old World War II veteran and father of 6. Through March 2014, Wetlaffer murdered 6 more patients by injecting them with insulin at Crescent Care Home. She also injected 2 others with intent to murder. She confessed to 2 counts of attempted murder for these cases. Wetlaffer left employment at Crescent Care in 2014, but was in part-time work at other facilities and other patients' homes, where she injected 3 more people with insulin. Wetlaffer entered an inpatient drug rehabilitation program at the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, a hospital in Toronto, on September 16, 2016, where she confessed to killing her patients, leading to the police being informed. After providing police with a 2-hour-long confession, she was formally charged with 8 murders on October 25. On June 26, 2017, she was sentenced to 8 concurrent life terms in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years.